Welcome year 8s to this next video. This one's titled Measures of Spread. The reason I've done this one in a separate video to the mean, median and mode is that in this video we are looking at one more statistic. It's called the range, but this one actually finds something a bit different to what our mean, median and mode does. Think back to that video, we were looking at measures of centre. So we were looking at a statistic that will give us a typical value. This one here, the range, actually tells us something about the variation or how different the data values are. So it's not a value that's typical in the data set. In fact, sometimes the range is quite different. The values and the value that you get is quite different to the data that you have. And that's because, like I said, it's telling us something a little bit different. So how spread out is the data, in other words? Hence why we call it a measure of spread. What we do to get this particular measure, this particular statistics, is we look at the difference between our largest value that's in our data set, we call that the maximum, and the smallest value that's in our data set, which is called the minimum. As a result, we have a way of calculating the range, and we call that, or we describe it, I should say, as the maximum minus the minimum. So I'm just going to pop a box around that because that is important. That is how it is calculated. I'm going to show you just a few examples of how we get the range. So here we have the first example. Our data is listed here. It's 2, 5, 2 and 3. What I'm going to do is just first find our maximum and our minimum values. So our maximum here, our highest one is 5. And our minimum, we've got 2 of them, but the smallest that appears is 2. What this means is when we calculate our range, we take that larger one, 5, and then we subtract our smaller one. And we see that the range for that first one is 3. Again, what you can do is jot down these numbers, pause it and find the range yourself, and then all you have to do is press play and check that you've got the same as what I get. First of all, I'm looking here and searching from these 5 numbers which is my largest one. So here we have 32. And all I need is the smallest one. The smallest one is 12. That gives me a range of 20. Finally, numbers a little bit bigger now. Find your largest number. Here we have 102. And the smallest one, looks like, is 40. So 102 minus 40. So our range is 62. So again, the range here, it's not telling us a typical value, as does our measures of centre. It is trying to give us just an idea about how different are those values. So you'll see that here, this is a very large range, so 62. So there's quite a big difference between the largest value in our data and the smallest value in our data. Whereas this first one we did had a range of only 3. So a very small difference between our largest and our smallest. Again, just like in our previous video, it'd be good if you had a nice clear definition of what the range is in your notes, as well as the 3 examples that we've done together here now.